Hey everybody, we're keeping our eye on a big development on Capitol Hill, and if you care about public lands, hunting, and fishing, it matters to you.
On this vote, the yeas are 11, the nays are 9.
Nomination will be reported favorably to the Senate floor.
Yeah, we're talking about former Congressman Steve Pierce of New Mexico. He's Trump's nominee to serve as director of the Bureau of Land Management.
Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Mr. Barrasso.
Aye.
Mr. Risch.
Aye.
Mr. Daines.
With a party line vote of 11 to 9 Wednesday morning, the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee sent Selloff Steve Pierce's controversial nomination to the full Senate. That means no matter where you live in this country, your senators are going to have a say on the future of public lands. So we're going to dive deep into Pierce's nomination today, including getting into some of the politics behind it. First, I'm Aaron Murphy, along with Bryn Merkley, Barrett Kaiser, and Lantani. We are American hunters and anglers. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Yo. What's up, Murph?
Let's talk some shit, Land.
Land, why don't you kick us off? Why is this nomination such a big deal for public lands?
Well, first of all, let's talk about why this is important. And it's the Bureau of Land Management, which not everybody knows about, but it's 245 million acres, which makes it the largest public land agency in America. And so being the director of the Bureau of Land Management is such an important thing to think about, multiple use in particular. And then you have Steve Pierce, who we've talked about, Selloff Steve, who is a former congressman, big time boo, who is a former congressman from New Mexico, who has a long record of talking about selling off public lands. I think there was one quote where he was like, we have too much of this land, we don't even really need it, right? So that's why this thing's important, and I think that that's why we're paying attention. I think that's why, public land patriots across the country are paying attention.
And honestly, I mean, the amount of pushback that we have seen on this nomination is incredible. I mean, you're talking about hunting, fishing organizations, major newspaper editorials. There's been extensive polling done in a variety of states to show overwhelming opposition to this guy because he has such a long track record of trying to sell off our public lands, and now he's going to be in charge of them. And in Murph's opening, that this was a party line vote in the committee, shocker, right? I mean, hello. So we got to continue to fight back on this one.
And let's also remember that this man is 78 years old.
And it's not just that the dude is old, but he has this long track record. And honestly, I would have loved to have been in the Project 2025 meeting when they were like, who should we put up for the BLM director? Somebody says, how about Steve Pierce of New Mexico? Somebody else says, well, isn't he really old? And they said, yeah, that's the point, right? Let's put nice old aw shucks grandpa up, and so no one will punch him in the face and ask him the tough questions. And that's exactly what fucking happened at the hearing.
Yeah, and let's get into that hearing because it happened last week, and that's when Steve Pierce sat in the hot seat before that committee, and it was the chance for senators to ask their tough questions of them. And we're going to get into the politics behind all of this in just a sec, but first I want to start off with this clip. This is Senator Ron Wyden, Democrat from Oregon, with a line of questioning for this old fucking guy, Steve Pierce.
You said, and I quote, most of it we do not even need. Now, my question to you then is there too much public land in the West now, in your view? Is that something you said some time ago and you no longer believe?
The statement made there was when I was represented as a legislative person.
Let's be clear on this. You no longer agree with the statement you made years ago that I quoted you on, because people can change their mind. I get that.
I'm not so sure that I've changed.
It's pretty hard for us to be able in the West to trust someone who fundamentally doesn't believe that these public lands are important.
So, Land, what are your biggest takeaways from that exchange and the hearing overall?
I mean, that was probably, the hottest that the seat got for Steve Pierce. It was more like a lukewarm seat, I would say, throughout that hearing. But it was great to hear folks double down on how important public lands is, especially these senators that are in the West, where a majority of this Bureau of Land Management land is. So I think that was good. I thought it was really interesting when Cynthia Lummis opened up the whole hearing, and she said, there couldn't be a better person for this position. And I was like, oh my God, on what world do you think this is the perfect person for this job?
Not only were they going so lukewarm soft on him, but people in our audience, real hunters and anglers, were like, what the hell was that? That was so disappointing. We were looking for people who are going to hold these guys accountable. I feel like everybody was so worked up to be like, we're gonna tell him, and then everybody watched it and it was like, it was very mid. Yeah, it was
so
not.
mid. I mean, that whole hearing was a pig circus, and honestly, like, you know, and I think it was by design, right? They put Grandpa up. They literally like wheeled Weekend at Bernie's dude up to the witness table, and he's like, "I love taking my grandkids hiking on public lands," and everyone's like, "Oh, cool." No. This guy is the enemy of public lands, and we were just hoping that somebody would have brought some damn heat to this guy. Right?
And he was like, and I'm not going to change.
So one thing that stuck out to me was this theme throughout the hearing, led by Chairman Mike Lee, again, Senator from Utah, Chairman of the committee, the nation's chief opponent of public lands in general. And let's play this clip from Senator Lee, because we're going to talk about it in the other side.
It's important for us to remember that current federal law doesn't allow this. It does not allow the mass sale of federal public lands. And so, you know, absent an act of Congress authorizing such a thing, the question is moot. And Congressman Pierce has noted this point repeatedly and has acknowledged that he'll follow the law.
That clip that you just played from Mike Lee, right? Is like, oh, well, he can't sell mass things of public land. Mike Lee, you just tried to sell 3.3 million acres of public land. And so you're saying with a straight face that it has to be a congressional act? Well, you just tried to do it and you got it like shoved back like where it should be, where it hopefully doesn't come back again. But like there was that piece. And then the other piece that I like, and I think, you know, some of the senators maybe got into this a little bit, is that how can you trust a guy that wants to divest our public lands to be in charge of them? It's about like, that's like having the arsonist in charge of the firehouse, right? He might not be setting the fires, but boy, is he going to let them burn, or he's going to create opportunities for them to burn, right? And I think that's exactly, if he is confirmed fully, that's exactly what Steve Pierce is going to do at the behest, as Barrett said, of Project 2025.
Yep. He's just a nice old grandpa, but the masterminds behind basically this massive land grab are just going to tell him exactly what to do. And it all goes back to making rich people richer, selling off our public lands. So the whole thing was just kind of a sham to me.
Well, and let's get into some of the politics behind this, the electoral politics, which I know a lot of people love to hate, but nonetheless, it is driving this entire agenda, and it matters. Again, if you hunt and fish, if you care about public lands, if you care about going out onto BLM land to walk your dog, to run your dog, to hunt, to shoot, to graze your cattle. This stuff matters to you, and it's been planned by people in charge, DC insiders, to worm this guy in and have him take over. But there is public pushback, and I want to play this clip. It's from Senator Jim Risch, Republican of Idaho. We got some things to say about this on the other side. Here's Jim Risch.
And as I explained to you, this is a 98% issue in Idaho. In all my decades of serving the state, I've never received such passionate and unified messages as I have on this particular topic. Idahoans do not want their public lands sold, period, full stop. Public lands are really part of us. They are really sacred to us. So any hint that could happen really raises the ire of Idaho people.
But on Wednesday, Jim Risch,
Mr. Risch,
voted for Selloff Steve Pierce, despite saying all of that. So let's get into the politics of this. Again, all Republicans voted yes for Selloff Steve Pierce. That's despite the fact that half of them constantly tell voters, their constituents, that they support public lands. Land, I know you just this week had a rant on Instagram about how you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
And that's what like Senator Risch in particular, you just played that, right? And he talked about, which is super awesome. This is a 98% issue in Idaho. That's because the people in Idaho have made him say that, right? Like all the pushback saying we love our public lands and we don't want this guy to be in charge of them. And so he says that, but then he goes and votes for him. Like that is like, to me, just the height of hypocrisy.
And it's classic politician doublespeak, right?
Absolutely.
If this is
Absolutely.
a 98% issue in your state, Senator, then why are you voting for the guy who wants to sell off our public lands? Like, you can't have it both ways, bro.
When it reminds me, Kathy McMorris Rogers was a congresswoman from Washington, and she was up to be the Secretary of Interior, and she had supported a bill that was going to divest some public lands. That came up before she actually, got into the spot where Steve Pierce was, and that was during Trump 1. Her nomination was tanked because of that. Now we have a guy that says, I'm not going to I haven't changed my views, and they're voting for him. Like that to me, like, where have we gone in politics? We think we've gotten in a better place on public lands. This just showed that they don't really care. They think that people aren't paying attention.
Right. And they're moving the standard of normal over, right? So all of a sudden it's okay to be against public lands and in charge of an agency as long as you just promise to senators that you'll do the right thing.
Right. And that's why it's so important for people to be tuning in. Not to plug our page, but to plug our page. I mean, we're the ones who are going to be like, what the fuck? That is not what you said you were going to do.
Absolutely.
And we're not going to sit here and be all polite and cutesy about it and act like it didn't happen. And voters need to know and understand that these people are not representing you.
And they're slippery politicians. They say one thing and do another, and we cannot let them get away with that. That's a part of being an informed citizenry and electorate, is to use our voices to call bullshit. And that's exactly what this whole process has been. From start to finish, that hearing was bullshit. The way these guys are voting is bullshit. And we've got one more shot at this, and that's on the floor of the United States Senate. So every United States senator is going to have to take a vote on this. So it doesn't matter where you live. We got one shot, and that is we need to call and email and text our senators like right away.
Every senator now gets to vote this way. For those folks in Idaho, you 98% who love your public lands that contacted Senator Risch, now is your time to turn up the heat. Throw a little gasoline on that fire, because you should be pissed. You should be pissed about this doublespeak. I would say the same for Steve Daines here in Montana, Cynthia Loomis in Wyoming, a big public land state. Light them the F up. And then all these other senators that aren't on the committee, this is our time to say, hell no. And if we don't do that, he's absolutely going to get confirmed. But those folks in Idaho start to turn up the heat. Those folks in Montana start to turn up the heat. We could turn this thing and put this guy back to bed where he needs to be.
And honestly, when we're talking about slippery politicians and Steve Daines didn't even approach the subject of public land sales, right? He had all of this time and didn't ever once ask him about his record. He comes to Montana and goes out to the voters, and he claims to be this big public lands champion, this big hero that should be praised and lauded by the communities. That's all bullshit. He had an opportunity to take this guy to the woodshed, and he just tippy-toed around it and danced. And it's just so fake.
Well, it's also just a lack of courage, right? I mean, the guy has no backbone, and he's also figured out something that I want to touch on a little bit, which is if you say just the right things about public lands, there's a lot of people in our community who will be like, well, he said the right thing. That means we need to keep supporting him and praising him because he might, they're like the nerds in the lunchroom. The jock just took your lunch money, and now you're trying to be nice to him. So fuck that. Steve Daines doesn't give a shit about you or public lands. He cares about rubber stamping this agenda. And if this agenda, which is against public lands, outdoor heritage, hunting and fishing, disguised in his own way of like, well, I go and explore hiking and wilderness. Nobody. You are in charge of voting. You are one of 2 votes in this state, and you fucked it.
And most insulting of all, he thinks that we're stupid.
I like to say, stop being a part-time lover, yo. Like, if you call yourself a public land lover, then love them. Don't be going around the corner and then going, whatever, doing something weird around the corner to public lands. You have to be a full-time lover of public lands to get that moniker.
You know what I found to be particularly rich? A lot of these senators put out statements like they secured commitments. Like, okay, great. I got a pocket full of secured commitments. Like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, it reminds me of like Tommy Boy, right? Like when they had like the warranty or whatever on the brake pads, and he was like, All that is like, that's just like a fake thing, like that will, like, you'll never ever use. Like schmittments, right? Like, it's time to either say yes for public lands and vote against this guy, or vote with him and say you are against public lands. If that's the way you are, then just tell everybody. You can't have it both ways.
It's black and white.
And put your dirt bike and all your toys back in the garage, because you're not going to be able to use them anymore.
Well, so kudos to the well, it's actually 8 Democrats and 1 independent. And again, we're a nonpartisan organization, but the proof is in the pudding, guys. I mean, there's only one party that is at war with public lands and our outdoor heritage right now, and it is happens to be the GOP. And so we're going to call it out until things change. And so, again, the next step is to tell your senators who will have a say on the future of Steve Pearce, and just a little bit of wonkiness, but the Senate only needs 51 votes to support him. It's not a bigger threshold than that. So, Bryn, where can people go? What do people need to do?
One of the biggest places today online is to build community on social media. Share these videos, get the word out. You can do it from the comfort of sitting, laying in bed. I don't care. Like, share these videos on your phone. We've got videos coming out every day, keeping you up to date on these issues. And we want you to share them with your buddies and your friends that you go out exploring. Like, I don't care if you are a hunter, maybe you're not a hunter, maybe you just have a dog and you like to go, maybe you just like to walk outside and breathe fresh air. These are things that you need to be paying attention to. So share these videos, get the word out, tag your friends, rip your senators apart in the comments on our page, on their pages, and tell your friends to do the same. It's time to go stage 5.
Well, guys, appreciate your time. Lan Tani, Barrett Kaiser, Bryn Merkley. I'm Aaron Murphy, and we are all American hunters and anglers. We appreciate you following us, keeping up with the fight with us on social media, also at our website, which is nolandgrab.com. And we'll be watching this closely. So stay tuned, and we'll be in touch.
Keep using your voice.
That's right.
Let's fucking go.